Okay, it's recording.
3. Alright, let's go.
Alright.
What are we recording?
Well, I decided to pick. So what I decided to pick for my thing is a student with ESL. So what I decided to focus on were basically the classroom environment, learning and teaching strategies, and assistive tech. So obviously a student who has a learning exceptionality of ESL, within the classroom they fear communication. So there's the fear of being laughed at because they might not be able to speak properly. They might have issues expressing his or her identity in assignments. They may not know how to write a proper sentence grammatically correct. And within the classroom environment, there's issues such as the student may need help participating in the class, so maybe through group work, maybe through answering questions, may need some form of organizational system for work and daily routines so that they are aware of what's expected to be done. You might need to sit them next to a peer who is a strong student and is willing to be able to help at any point during lesson or activity. So the idea that student will basically become their guide and point of reference at any point in the class. And some learning/teaching strategies that might be effective are using differentiated instruction so that it can meet the needs of an ESL student and yet they can still participate, collaborate too. So use those kind of approaches. Also provide a student with ESL the ability to complete assignments using media instead. So it's less form of writing and you use pictures or maybe songs to express his own understanding or their own understanding. And when teaching, use visual, oral, and written instructions to make sure that a student has a clear understanding. So instead, you're repeating them more than once instead of just giving oral direction. You're giving 3 different forms of instructions to make sure that they are fully clear and that they are understandable. And so some assistive tech tools that might be of use would be like an iPad text-to-voice speech, as we found in our first class with Laura, how the experience with the iPads that if you click on a word, it can actually say it for you instead. Translator apps might help a lot, so the student might not understand a word in English and might translate it to their own language. You could use an Edmodo for classroom participation. WorldWordExchange.com is also another online voice communication, so it's pre-made sentences that a student can use. And then the Solo Literacy Suite is also another online tool that will help assist a student with ESL who knows how to write sentences correctly, and it's just a way of teaching and guiding them through those principles. And then that's it.
Alrighty. Well, I can go next then. How do I get rid of yours, Cole? Oh, there. Okay.
I just moved it over.
Okay, so here's mine. So I did mine on speech impairment, and just in the black boxes there, you can see I just put like a little description of what it actually is. So they might have mild to severe voice difficulties, they might have mild to severe deficits or delays in articulation, and they might have mild to severe difficulty with speech fluency. In the blue boxes is what I put what the student might need in the classroom. So I put that they may need assistance to present their work, they may need assistance expressing their needs and wants, they may need alternative way to contribute to group discussions. And then in the orange boxes there were like my ideas of what I thought could be some teaching strategies to deal with these. So down here with the may need to alternative way to contribute to group discussions, I said that the student could contribute to the discussions using the text-to-speech app, like Cole also mentioned, or by writing on the whiteboard. And then a particular tech tool for that would be the iPad, which is the text-to-speech, like Cole just said too. Up here with the may need assistance expressing their needs and wants, you could develop like cards or something for the student to indicate like common needs and desires, so they might have like a little picture of like a toilet if they need to go to the bathroom. And then when I actually looked into the research, there actually are all these apps that are for this purpose. So if you look at this picture of this iPhone here, it's actually an app that just has like these common needs, and they could just tap it and they could convey what they're wanting. For presenting their work, you could allow the students to present their work in different manners rather than just like a typical presentation. So like we were looking at last semester, making like little comic strips or using digital animation tools, they could present their work that way if they're interested. For expressing themselves, you could have them develop body motions that all of their classmates are familiar with, and then the specific text tool, like you could have them have a laptop so they can just like type out exactly what they're feeling. Something specifically that I was really surprised about is all of these apps are quite expensive. Like the Proloquo To Go was the most popular one, but it's an app that costs $189.99. So it's like on the App Store is almost $200 to buy that app. And then same in this one down here, the writing's kind of small. Like this app, the text-to-speech app that you can download, it's free to download, but then you have to pay to download all the voices. So it's like, why would you even have it if you don't have the voices downloaded? It said it costs like $25 to download like English male voice or something. So that was kind of what surprised me about how much all of this costs, which leads me to my question as to whether like school boards and schools themselves would pay for these students to download these apps, or if it would be the students specifically like having to kind of front that cash on their own. Like if do they have to buy their own iPads? Do they have to buy their own apps, or is it something that the school board will do for them? And that's all.
Shannon, there was a bit of echo in the background.
It's okay, you got the point, right?
Yeah, no, it was good. It was good.
Okay, someone else can go now.
Okay, so I can.
All right, I guess I'll volunteer.
Yeah, like what's the one you talked about, the Proloquo To Go?
I wrote
You talked about in the teaching for inclusion class. It's not bad. Like we just did a presentation. It's pretty good. So good on you for that.
So who's going to go now?
Are you going, Mamoon? I guess I'll go. I guess I'll go. Okay. Yeah, I guess I'll just go. Let me just make this bigger. All right, so my learning exceptionality was on ADHD, and now technology can be like a double-edged sword. It can really help, or it can really kind of make things worse. So, but in this case, there are kind of 4 areas that I focused on. One being planning and time management, motivation, memory, and attention. So, people with ADHD have a really difficult time planning and managing, particularly big assignments. So some of the strategies that I listed were like just give the assignments in chunks, break down the assignments, have like a simple countdown timer rather than having them look at a clock, which can distract them. Have something on their desk that can count down. This is how much they have for an assignment. And what's really good is if you give them a timer, they can take breaks at certain points, so that can really help keep their attention. Also, like doing things outside of that, you can also give them checkpoints for making sure that their notebook is tidy and everything is written down. If they're using schedules, that's really good. So of course there's apps for that. Planning can really help. For motivation, like there's different things you can do. So like again, chunking tasks together like giving an instruction, or it's really good to just identify key words and phrases. So it just helps them just stay and know what it is that it is required for them. So the reason they lack motivation is sometimes they're just overwhelmed by the amount of work. So always breaking it down. For memory, this is like really good if you can play games, use visuals, pictures, have people talk out loud, and also teaching big techniques, so like mnemonics, rehearsals can help them just form their memories. And attention, give specific instructions. Of course, you're gonna have to work with like different seatings. So, like you want where they can be distracted or close to the window, and always try to involve them actively in the lessons. So through questioning, and so some of the like technology tools that you can use. A lot of them like music and they're better with, and let them listen to music. Use electronic dictionaries over the traditional dictionary just because they'll find the words a lot faster. And if they prefer typing on a computer, let them type on a computer. When giving them choices for assignments, for example, if they like using PowerPoints, then let them use PowerPoint. And a speech recognition software is also really good for them for studying and for taking down notes, just because it's time that they need to take their own notes. And really helpful, especially for getting organized, so that they know that this is how much time they have and how much time they need left, and they can take breaks, so they won't feel burned out really quickly. And that's kind of in a nutshell how to work with someone who has ADHD. That ends my little speech.
Okay, so I'll go next then. Okay, so basically, I look at autism spectrum disorder, and in the red, as you can see, I looked at several different areas, and these are not just exclusive. These are not exclusive only to autism spectrum disorder. So I looked at areas that the student may need assistance, such as managing their behaviors, fine motor skills, focusing, literary skills such as reading and writing. Also look at the expressive language, so more in the academic area, as well as their social skills. Now, some teaching techniques that would be needed for these would be a more collaborative approach where the teacher or those who are conducting the process of learning would need to provide visuals, stuff like playing games or listening to stories, providing positive behavioral support. They may need to do their homework at school for those who have problems focusing and not being able to complete fast in a reasonable time. They would need to go through that process at home. Also, because of this exceptionality, teachers may need to reduce the number of questions that they're posing for students. So instead of asking like several different questions, they may have to limit it to maybe 2-3 questions, so that the students are able to focus in blocks, as opposed to having a tremendous amount of information that would overwhelm. Also, they'd have to provide shorter writing periods, as opposed to expanding it over a period of time. Another area that they would, the technique that would be needed to help these students with is to give them short, clear instructions. A reward system may also help these students, as can be used as a technique, as well as written prompts, visual prompts. Also, modeling may be a good way of helping these students, and also another good way of helping them is to reinforce learning through visuals or modeling, whatever the case may be. Some of the assistive technologies that I looked at is video modeling. Okay, computers would also be a very good way of, because they're let's say students of habit. Computers would be a good way of helping them to continue that habit, to learn through interacting with computers and so on, software and computers. A touch window may also be a good way of helping these students focus. And digital cameras could also be used. So these are not just limited assistive technology. They can be many more assistive technologies to help these students. One of the questions I had, was, seeing that Canada is such a multi-ethnic society, the question that comes to mind is, how can we provide teaching techniques or assistive technology to assist students of such a wide background, speaking so many different languages? Is it at all feasible, especially when they come into the country at a certain age level? Are they able to receive the help that they need in an adequate way? So this is one of the questions that came to mind. I also find, like Shannon, a lot of these technologies are very costly, very expensive. So again, these are some of the areas or questions that comes to mind when I did a bit of research. So this is my little presentation on autism spectrum disorder, and this is where I end.
Great job. Good job. Cool. Thanks. It was good. I enjoyed it. Let me try and find my, because I downloaded it as a JPEG, so why don't I just share that? See anything? Oh, nice. Good work. Okay, so I did. I know it says heart impairment. I think I meant hearing impairment. I'm sorry. So some of the items where students who have hearing impairment would need assistance in the classroom. I found different instances. Most of them, you can imagine, are with lectures. But they do struggle with, taking notes as a result of that, group work, watching videos, because of the audio with it, communicating with others, announcements and bells. And I didn't think about this, but it does make sense in the way that students are, if they're walking around the halls, they may not be able to hear the bell. They may not be able to hear certain announcements. So that is a different problem that you're going to see in the school, as well as so when I thought of different teaching strategies for it, there's a couple that you can basically go over. Reducing noise in the classroom is a fairly obvious one. Fluorescent lights often provide that sort of feedback that's sort of a little annoying. It could mess with their hearing. So it would be good to, if that is a big problem in your classroom, put them away from there. Another place where to seat them away from is away from the windows, because people with hearing loss or hearing impairment often rely on reading lips, So if you put them near windows, it may cause a glare which would impair their vision, because they rely a lot on vision, but it may impair their vision with the teacher, the presenter. And that also goes hand in hand with never talk, the strategy of never talking while your back is turned. So the theory behind that is that, and I've done this all the time, so when you're turning your back to write something on the board and you're talking about it while writing on the board, the student with hearing impairment can no longer hear what you're, or no longer read your lips and what you're saying, so they'll lose sort of that communication bridge. As you could help yourself out by making the student close to the teachers. Most classrooms are small enough where the noise funnels toward the front of the classroom, which is good. But in areas such as like gymnasiums or auditoriums where it's huge and voices can carry very easily, it's important that you make sure the students are close so they can have a better chance of understanding. You can always go over lectures and they can always require extra clarification. Just to make sure this is a job you should do, an extra little tidbit as you should do after your lecture is done, just to make sure they got everything and that they're up to date. A written copy of announcements is always a great thing, as I was saying earlier, that they may have trouble hearing announcements while in the classroom or while in the halls, both. So a written copy of announcements that you may not have to write, but maybe the office can write and you can facilitate that. And last 2 points are sign language. Obviously, in certain circumstances, it may be necessary, and you may have to learn it. And there's probably online tools for that. The last teaching strategy I had was a U-shaped classroom, and the idea behind the U-shaped classroom is that everybody can see everybody. So when you're doing group work or there's a big class discussion, instead of the student facing forward at the front of the class and not being able to see what other people are saying by reading lips, like behind them, a U-shaped classroom allows the student to see everybody so they can read lips from everyone, which helps them participate in the discussion a lot more. Some tech tools that I found, an online classroom like Edmodo that we were talking about, where all the notes and slides are posted where they can find. Closed captioning for the videos that they watch. Most students with hearing impairment might have assistive technology such as frequency modulators or the personal hearing aids. I put down vibrating alarm, and that was for, you could use it on your phone for the bells, or when the bells should be going, just in case they are distracted, and they do have that sort of reminder to say, hey, look, class is starting. A webcam, which is great, which allows a student to communicate with group members or a teacher, and they can read lips right there. A smartboard is sort of that interactive tech tool where everyone can, where a teacher can present information, and a student who struggles with hearing or lecturing can sort of understand the content better by just participating in it using the kinesthetic motions. The other couple ones I talked about were the text-to-speech tool, Caption, and the example I gave was Caption Mic, and Caption Mic allows an instructor to speak into it, and then the Caption Mic then goes to the student's computer, and it puts it in the form of closed captioning. The other one I talked about was UbiDuo face-to-face communicator, and this is sort of like what it does is it has two portable keyboards with displays that allow the deaf or hearing to instantly type through through written messages, which is very, very cool. And it is essentially another form of Skype, but this is a different alternative to it. Overall, I know it says heart impairment. I meant to say hearing impairment. But yeah, and that's the presentation, guys.
All right, so everyone has presented